Beautiful. Welcome to the new moon in Leo meditation. Hope you guys are having a joyful, positive, fun day, confident day. When you're watching the recording, just know that we are still in that window. So all of this is still going to apply. Woo. So with this Leo new moon in the middle of Venus retrograde in Leo, you might be feeling a little bit more stressed or worried, concentrated on love and money things. And just know that you're in alignment with that. Understanding that it could feel more intense because of the aspects that are happening with Venus right now and the moon, as well as the sun. So this new moon typically can be a little bit more introspective, internal, could feel more external or like a lot more busy and more active than usual, which also aligns with that Leo energy being the fixed fire sign. So it's kind of like you're not going to be able to escape this energy. You're not going to be able to escape the action. You're going to get this. Okay. You're going to get it all. So it's interesting though with Leo energy, it can be very intense or like very like ferocious and like that lion energy, but it's also like very energizing and energetic. And so that goes along with what I was saying with like being very active. So it can feel a little bit more freeing too, because sometimes it's just like, fuck it, all this shit is going on. I'm just gonna like, it is like we're out here. You know what I mean? I feel like that's Leo energy too. That's where that confidence comes in, just being present and just being like, this is what life is. This is what's going on in my life right now. I'm here, I'm present, and whatever comes at me, I'm going to be able to manage, deal with, live through. You know what I'm saying? So of course the new moon is reflective of the conjunction with the sun. And so we're at the height of this Leo energy with this new moon, I feel, but we're at the end of Leo season. So this is a great time to be super reflective in general about the themes that have come up for you during the season, in regard to yourself, and how you're showing up in spaces, what maybe you feel super connected to, what you feel less connected to, where you want to be more vocal, where you want to stand up for, where you want to fight for, in the sense of like what you love and care about and feel passion for, versus things that maybe don't really, stroke that fire for you anymore necessarily. And speaking of which, in that sense, Leo is ruled by the sun. And the sun is all about energy, right? It's our energy source here for the planet as a whole. And when we think about how important that energy source is, it really is about vitality, life, and sustaining that life. And so when something no longer feels energetic to us, right? We don't feel like we're getting something from it. We no longer need to like put our energy into it or like show up for it, because it can start to feel draining. It can start to feel the opposite of energizing. And I think that's an interesting way to look at the energy for this new moon, is like, just like that, like what feels good or what feels like vitalizing and what feels like dead or like draining. And with that, creating your manifestations around more abundance in the aspects of things that feel good, and kind of taking away some of your attention on things that aren't really feeling that great and shifting it elsewhere. So I wrote down some questions when I was sitting in the sun earlier today. I said, what brings warmth to your soul, right? What makes you feel good, comforted? What makes you feel present? What makes you feel safe? What makes you feel cozy? What makes you cozy, word to Beyonce, what makes you feel like yourself, right? What makes you feel like confident in yourself. That's such an interesting connection I just made there with that song, because she is talking about cozy. Cozy is a sense of, is like, I feel comfortable, right? And the sun makes us feel comfortable a lot of times. You know, Kisha and I were just talking, when we get cold or whatever in like certain aspects in our life, you know, you want to go outside, you want to like warm up. And everyone likes the summer. You know, it gets hot as hell, but it's also like way more enjoyable to be warm than like freezing and shaking and you can't relax. And so, like, what makes you feel cozy? What makes you feel comfortable? What makes you feel warm in your soul, in your heart space? Going into my second question, what liberates your heart? What makes you feel free? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel like a kid again, right? The sun, Leo energy is very focused on that youthfulness. So that's why a lot of Leos, wherever you have placements in Leo, they have a tendency to feel very like childlike, in the sense of like carefree, exuberant, like, you know, that's okay, we'll figure it out. Like there's this playfulness in the energy. And so it's like, what makes your heart feel light? What makes your heart feel like it can be, and it can experience, and it can connect, and it can create, and it can enjoy, and it can have pleasure, you know? That's kind of what we want to be manifesting under this new moon. Things that feel good, things that make us feel free and like ourselves. And then the last question, which kind of goes into that, what makes you feel alive? And I think that's why it's cool to have this Leo energy right now. It's kind of in a interesting space. It's not halfway, right? Because Virgo is technically halfway, but we're about to go into Virgo. But with Leo, it lets us kind of like be more aware of the fun aspects of life, the purpose of life, what makes us feel passionate, and the joys and the excitement, and kind of bringing that to the forefront so we can really connect back to our heart, which, you know, Leo is very much so about the heart space as well as the solar plexus, but it's also about your heart. If you can't move forward with confidence if your heart isn't in alignment with what you want to do. And so Leo coming before Virgo, it's like, okay, this is what I love, this is what I enjoy, this is what makes me happy. And then Virgo comes in and gives you more of that structure, or gives you more of that plan on how to kind of bring that more into your everyday reality. But we have to really connect with our heart, connect with our passions, connect with our soul and what makes us feel warm and cozy, in order for us to want to put work into that, right? With Virgo season coming up after it. So the sun is the ruler of Leo. And like I was saying, I'm sitting outside right now because it really gave me a lot of inspiration, which is very Leo too, with the fire energy, about like, wow, like we see, especially if y'all are plant moms, you see how your plants like need the sun. And just like your plants need the sun, you need the sun. And nature is like, we talk about the moon a lot, but the sun is the active energy, it being the masculine side of energy, right? It's the one that's like making things happen, so to speak, you know, putting things into action. You know, if you want your plant to grow, it needs the sun so it can make action, it can bloom, it can do its thing. It needs water, right? So it can internally like nourish itself, which would be that divine feminine energy. But the sun is making it move, grow, like the visibility of it's external, which is also like that masculine energy, that the outwardness. So, and I just heard kids like screaming and having fun, which that is so funny because that is that expression of like sun energy, right? Leo energy. It's this like, if you're having a good time, like if you're on a roller coaster and you're having a good time, you're yelling. Okay. I fucking love roller coasters. I am on a roller coaster because it makes me feel so free and liberated. And like, I'm just in the moment and I am like, so that expression of like your joy is very much so that Leo energy. So it's really I feel like this moon, although it's in the midst of this Venus retrograde, and then we're in the shadows of Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot of like real shit going on. It's a reminder that like we're still a soul having a human experience. So like what makes our soul feel alive? You know, what's animating us? And that is where we want to kind of continue to nourish and give space to. What I write down, we need the sun. Why do we deny ourselves the glow, the warmth, the love of this energy? I wrote down that sometimes we take it for granted. So I think this new moon is a great time for us just to remember how much it is important for us to have that duality in our receptive space where we sit and we meditate, but also when we act and we do, whether it's something that's going to further our goals and our aspirations or something that's just going to make us have fun and enjoy ourselves. That duality is what brings harmony and balance into our existence so that we can feel grounded as we, you know, move along and do our thing. So I think Leo season has been really important in us remembering that that action and being active and connecting in an external way is just as important than the internal work that we do for ourselves. And with that being said, I already pulled cards for the moon energy earlier today. And before I get into that, I also, because Leo is very creative, so just before we get into tarot, I have my, Manipura chakra incense going, which is that Leo energy, that yellow energy. I also pulled my pyrite, my red tiger's eye that I got from Doers Beats Thinkers, my citrine, and my tiger's eye. So, you know, ritual activity is very creative in the sense of like getting like leaning into the energy and seeing how it like relates to you. And so with that Leo energy right now, being ritualistic, I feel with your new moon will be helpful, and do it in your own way, but incorporating your crystals, incorporating color, incorporating scent, incorporating sound, which we'll obviously do with Kisha, using candle magic. It's fire, right? So having that aspect as well. I have my yellow candle. I did my engraving on there. I think I just put little simple words. Power, you know, is one of those that I put in there. Money, power, respect. That's a song. That's just anyways, but whatever you want, you know, whatever you want to manifest, whatever you want to bring in, whatever you want to amplify, whatever you want to connect more with, setting some intentions there. And then into the tarot now, I chose the Zodiac Tarot, which has the Strength card on it. It's got a lion on the case, so we love it. And what was really cool is in my pool, we got the sun. So I love when spirit aligns and it's like, yeah, we're talking about fucking the sun right now that's in Leo. And so the sun is at the center of our reading. And so it's this, I love the sun energy. This card, whatever it comes in a reading, it's the most positive, optimistic energy that you can get because it's about going back. That's why there's a kid in that, going back to like what makes you feel good, what makes you feel like yourself at your core, in your heart, and using that to expand, using that energy to grow, using that energy to light up your world. And the King of Swords came out, which I found interesting as well, because air energy is also masculine energy. And so I feel with this, when we write our intentions, we're using our brain, right? Our heart has to connect with our brain. And so it's saying, be the King of Swords, be the end all be all of your thoughts and what it is that you want to intend and what it is that you want to bring in. And this also talks about authenticity, which is also connected to Leo energy. So the King of Swords is honest as can be, the most honest energy you can pull. And so be honest with yourself, be truthful about who you are, what you want, what you enjoy, where you want to expand, what needs more sun, right? What needs more like nurturing in that aspect and an active aspect. And then we have the Chariot, which is also really cool since we just left Cancer season. And remember, Cancer season was all about our heart, right? Our emotions and moving forward from a heart-centered space. So King of Swords, the Sun, and the Chariots, essentially saying, let yourself make decisions and act in a way that's aligned with your heart, with your emotions, with what you care about, what makes you feel good, and just letting your mind and your heart get on the same page. Our bottom of the deck energy was the Seven of Swords. This is about self-doubt and fear. Don't let that stop you from continuing to be passionate and active towards what you care about and what matters to you, even in the midst of what could feel like with these retrogrades a little cloudy, a little confusing, a little scary. So those are the vibes.
Alrighty. Well, that makes sense. It's kind of weird because I was meditating for like 45 minutes today. I don't know why. I go into a meditation and I seem to always stop at 45 minutes. Naturally, I just come out. It's like, we're done. It's like, okay. But yeah, it's like, I guess maybe it's because has been Leo season, but I just noticed that like all the apartments I've lived in, they just don't get direct sunlight. So I have to make a conscious effort to get sunlight. And being a massage therapist, we're in dark rooms all the time and stuff, which is nice. But it's like when it's summertime, I like to be outside. Like, and it's like a kid, like I would love to be outside until the sun went down. Once the sun went down, I was like, all right, I'm done. Bye. But I have to make a conscious effort to go outside and get some sunlight. Because otherwise it's just, I don't feel good. It's interesting because like we are like plants, got to stay hydrated, got to say positive words to ourselves, and stuff like that. But, and, be nurtured and tended to, clip the dead ends so that we can really grow and flourish. But it's funny because every time I look at my plants, they start to wilt if I haven't watered them in a week or whatever. And then once I do water them, the first thing they do is they liven up, but then they move straight towards the sun. So every time, like every week, I have to rotate them because just to keep them, like balanced. Because they keep just drawing towards the sun, drawing towards the sun. I think that's really cool. To see how like that natural intelligence, nature's intelligence, how it's just built that way. I mean, plants, they don't have a consciousness like we do as humans, but they do have their own intelligence, right? That nature's intelligence, which you can call it chi, you can call it prana, you can call it energy, you can call it a lot of different things. But I think there's, something to be said for that driving force that empowers us and that we are drawn to. And so it's kind of interesting because, like in Reiki, I break it down as far as Reiki means universal life force energy, but Ki is the life force part. So Ki, Chi, Prana, nature, intelligence, that kind of thing. That's all the Ki part of Reiki, right? The life force part. But the Ray part is universal. And I break it down to my students by saying the ray of Reiki is kind of like a ray of sunshine. I always say it's like a ray of light, a ray of sunshine. It's the source. It's the power that fuels, it's that light within our universe. It's that universal part that is source energy. And so it's kind of interesting that, we don't always think about the sun unless we have it in some degree of like, oh, we haven't had enough of it. If it's wintertime, we're like, ugh. And then, or you're at the beach, something like that, it might feel good. Or you're hot, you're sweaty, like, oh, it's hot outside, and then we want to be more dormant, which is kind of like moon energy, lunar energy. But even the moon, the moon goes through phases, but even the sun, it doesn't really go through phases, but it does, in a way. And I say that because the sun is like Leo is fixed energy. The sun is the sun is the sun all day long. Even when it's night in one hemisphere, it's still sunning somewhere else. Okay, it is what it is. However, that is its phase. Like it doesn't turn and go through the cyclical 28-day cycles like the moon does, but the sun still has its own phase, right? It does its own thing. It's very like Leo energy, very fixed energy. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be where I'm at, kind of thing, right? So in the northern hemisphere, we have spring and summer. And then when it goes into fall and winter, then it becomes the sun, spring or summer in the southern hemisphere. So it's still moving in its own cycle and rhythm, but it does its own thing. And then on top of that, the morning sunlight is a lot different than when it's high noon versus when it's dusk. So to me, the sun still has its own phases, which is why it's like, oh, between 12 and 4 o'clock, like that's like when the sun is at its most at its high point. And that's when, you might get like sunburn the most when you're at the beach or something. So it's kind of interesting. I never really thought about the sun having its own phase until Cidnee and I were talking about it earlier. But I'm like, the sun actually does have its own phase. It's just extra as fuck the whole time. It's literally like Leo energy. Like I'm gonna be where I'm at. I'm still me. I'm going through my own phases, but I'm still me wherever I'm at. You know what I'm saying? And so to me it's kind of like that, like I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And just, from dawn and dusk and high noon and all that sort of stuff, it's gonna move the way it needs to and be true to itself. It's gonna stay true to form. And to me, that's that authenticity, that fixed energy of Leo, of the sun itself, and being itself. It shines its light no matter where you go and where it is. It's going to shine its brightest, and you're just going to have to learn to adapt and put some sunglasses on or some sunblock on, right? Like it has that kind of force, that kind of impact, that significance. And so that's kind of like with this new moon, it's an opportunity, I feel like, for us to really embrace our most authentic self and just say, hey, this is who I am. I'm good in every hood. I'm going to be where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to be who I am wherever I am. And it's to me the embodiment of that I am. It's just, it is what it is, right? I was laughing at myself the other day because I was like, I got some red flags. What is one of my toxic, traits or my red flags? And I'm like, I'm gonna let it be what it is. That's my toxic trait. I'm gonna let it be what it is. And to me, that's kind of how Leo is. Like, okay, I'm gonna let it be what it is. But this is who I am. It's very, I won't say self-aware necessarily, because people can be, you know, you could be a Leo and not necessarily be self-aware, but I would say like, they are prideful. They are still loving though and compassionate and still generous and giving. So it's not that they're completely lacking self-awareness. They actually know to some degree who they are. And sometimes that, if they're underdeveloped or unevolved, then that might kind of, burn some people the wrong way and so forth. But at the same time, it's something to be said for being true to who you are and owning that, right? And regardless, still showing up at 100%. And a lot of times we don't, like the moon, she doesn't always show herself 100%, right? Because we have a new moon, it's that darkness. And then we have the full moon. So she goes through phases. She's more versatile in a way. But the sun being an active energy and then the moon being a dormant energy, with both in this moment, the sun in Leo and the moon in Leo, it's kind of like, what are aspects of ourselves that we want to highlight? What are aspects of ourselves that we are just like, that's just who I am, period. And then what are aspects of ourselves that are dormant, that are building slowly or we're hiding, and how can this moment allow you an opportunity to say, you know what? Because dormancy to me is just like, it's maybe hidden or it's taking a slower process. And that's how plants are, right? You plant the seed, you don't bear the fruit the same day you plant the seed. And so it's one of those things where right now with the Leo new moon, it's a good opportunity to see where we're certain traits of us, certain characteristics, where are we lying dormant in our own being? And are those things that we can give ourselves a little time, right? Like the new moon to the full moon and the next new moon. Like in this phase here, where can we give ourselves some time to grow, some time to expand, some time to resource, some time to, like even when you do plant a bunch of seeds at the same time, you can plant a seed for one rose bush and they're all going to blossom in their own time, right? Every little flower is going to blossom in its own time, no matter if you plant all the seeds at once. So this is an opportunity to really reflect on the parts of you that may be lying dormant. What parts of you can you own and just say, that's just who I am, and really own that 100%? But then what parts of you are lying dormant where you can say, you know what, I don't need all of these aspects of me to shine and, like, be fruitful overnight. However, I have planted the seeds. What is it that can shine a little bit here? Where can I shine a little bit there? And next thing you know, through your own phase, your own cyclical rhythm, your own intelligence, right, being an extension of nature above and below, then you'll come into your own full blossom when it's your time. And to me, that's kind of what this Leo sun, Leo new moon energy is about. Owning the aspects of yourself that you know to be true, right? Like your baseline, your default setting, like acknowledging those, owning them, and honoring them if they are something that's beneficial to you and those around you. But at the same time, if there's some that need to be clipped, like we were talking about plants earlier, there's some dead ends you need to clip off, go ahead and clip those off, so that you can really come into a greater fruition of who you are, a manifestation of who you are. And then if there's other parts of you that are lying dormant, how can you allow those pieces to start to pop up a little bit, just here and there? You don't have to do it all at once. Because we know that Leo energy can be very dramatic, right? But at the same time, Leo being the lion, like, it's not always in full drama. Lions, they like to still hang, and they kind of get a little lazy sometimes. If you've seen them at the zoo or out in nature, they kind of be chilling sometimes. And the sun, same way. It's not as dramatic, meaning like it's not as potent at 7 a.m. when it's rising, versus at 2 p.m. in the middle of summer, the dog days of summer. So it's not. It still has its own energy in those spaces. So it's kind of like, just give yourself time, literally divine timing, so that you can truly embrace those aspects of you of love and prosperity, and being more empowered in who you are, so that you can really find the wholeness of who you are. And it's kind of it's interesting because the picture for the flyer, the Leo new moon flyer, like the lion, it's like there's half of it in the sun and there's other half in darkness, but you still see the whole thing, right? So I kind of think that that's a real cool energy to embrace. And not everyone needs to see all of you. You know what I'm saying? There's parts of you that you do need to keep a little dormant and a little hidden, right? You can't show all of your cards at one time, but you can be strategic about what cards you play and what aspects of yourself you want to highlight or share or shine, not only with others, but within yourself. So that's that. My own personal thing is, I'm like, I'm always talking about Reiki and all this stuff. I'm like, that's who you are, Kisha. That's what you do. You give yourself Reiki every night. Who the hell cares if people get tired of you talking about Reiki? Well, okay. Guess what? At least they know you are. When the day they want someone that knows about Reiki, guess who they gonna go to? You, because you do this all day long. So it's kind of like, if there's something that you're passionate about, just own it. Because at the end of the day, like I thought about this earlier when Cidnee was talking, and I thought about it. I was like, so I'm always talking about Reiki, 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 and then I had to use it as an example. But at the same time, that's kind of like I said, the day someone needs a question answered about Reiki, who are they going to go to? The person that's always talking about it, the person that's embodied it, because they look like the source of knowledge for that. They become the source of knowledge. They become the expert in their field, or the master in their field. and you know that they are authentic and true to who they are because that's what they do all day long. They are fixed in that. So I've learned to just own that.
Yes. That
You
shit's
know?
fire. That shit's real. I love that. I love that so much. It's so true. Because it's funny because I live with my best friend, and I was talking about I work with different readers with the Aura Weaver, and she's just like, her comment was just like, Cidnee, you literally just fucking, tarot's the only thing you fucking do all day. And I'm like, I know. So it's like interesting to your point, like that's how I feel about tarot. Like I fucking love it.
Mm-hmm.
And from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, there's a fucking tarot deck probably in my hand in the hour. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, you know,
That's just what it is. You know, I go outside. I just like, let me throw on a T-shirt. It says it's doers beat thinkers, which is funny because you have her stones and I'm wearing her shirt. But it's like burn Palo Santo and chill. It's like if you've ever had a conversation with me, somebody will say, "Man, I don't know why I'm, feeling like this or like that." And I'm like, "Well, because you have a so and so sun and a blah 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 moon, and the planets are doing this, and then blah, 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 and that's going to impact you like this and that." And they're like, "What the hell? You're like a walking spiritual encyclopedia." And I'm like, and I used to feel like, maybe I'm doing too much, that the shadow side of Leo, basically. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I should shut up. They didn't ask for my opinion or whatever. But I'm like, you're also expanding their mind you're being generous with your knowledge. First of all, because people pay for this, okay? So, so if I'm giving you a reading, for free, technically, or not for free, but just in casual conversation, I'm being generous, not only with my knowledge and my wisdom, but with my time that I've invested in over X amount of time. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like the sun at 24 hours coming back around. I'm being generous with my time. I'm sharing myself as a source to you in that moment. And so, you know what? I'm not going to feel awkward and weird anymore for talking about and doing and sharing the things that I'm passionate about. Hopefully, it'll inspire you to find something you're passionate about and be comfortable in doing that as well. You know?
literally. Yes, that's the sun energy all day. Generosity is at the core of Leo energy, which is what sometimes it bothers me that it doesn't get the highlight.
Right.
Like Leo is a very generous sign,
Mm-hmm.
but it does a lot of times come from what they have to give.
Right.
But they're
Yeah.
giving it because they want to share and they want to connect and they want to like, this is what's in my soul and this is what I care about. And that matters.
Right.
So, you know,
You can't be a great ruler or masterful, being stingy and in lack and all that. Like, kings and queens don't come about by being, in lack or being greedy and stingy and things like that. Eventually, their kingdom or their queendom will fall. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day,
turn to
nobody
Game of Thrones. Perfect
right.
example.
Yeah, no one
You don't
fucks
want
with
to
you.
be Cersei. You want to be Daenerys.
Right. I don't know none of those people, but yes, what she said. What she said, y'all.
But
But
what's funny is Daenerys is the queen of the dragons, the fire. So,
oh,
yeah,
okay. That makes sense. Yeah. In order to be, if you're gonna embrace that Leo energy, you might as well just recognize whatever it is that is your gift, whatever you're passionate about, share it. Be generous with it. You know what I'm saying? And also maybe reflect on the areas of how you are generous. Sometimes we get so focused on, like practices like gratitude practice and we get in I don't know if y'all are like this, but I know me, what makes me fall into a gratitude practice is when I'm in lack. I feel like I'm lacking something, so I'm like, okay, let me practice gratitude. Let me practice gratitude. I'm flipping the fuck out over here. So let me just, let me practice gratitude. But I think a little twist on gratitude can be a generosity practice. Where have you been generous with yourself today? Your time, your presence, listening, sharing a thought, an opinion, some wise words, a laugh, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we're more generous with our time than we even think, and we don't give ourselves credit for that because time is of the essence. Time is the most valuable currency that we have, and you should spend it in places that appreciate it and help, and places that you value. Okay, so we're talking about currency and time being one of our greatest assets. Yes, you want to go spend it places that appreciate it and where there's value. Okay, because once it's gone, right? And so that's how you accumulate true wealth, is being mindful of where you spend your time, right? Where you invest your time. All right. You want it to appreciate, you want it to be of value. And so to me, that goes into the money, power, respect, and love aspect of Leo as well. Because if that's the most valuable asset that you have, then you definitely want to make sure that you invest in those places and spaces, like I said, that appreciate it. But that's true wealth to me. You know what I'm saying? That's how you accumulate the value and have more of a prosperous, purposeful life, and be able to. I don't know. I was trying to figure out where I was going with that, because I wrote down prosperity, but I think that kind of plays into Leo's energy of like luxury. If you think of like,
Pleasure.
yeah, pleasure. There you go, pleasure. If you think of, like what you value and what you appreciate and all that, it's all about pleasure. There you go. I like pleasure. There you go. There we go. Putting it all together. Sun and the moon of Leo. We have put it together, y'all.